Hello YouTube, a very warm welcome from my very sunny London teaching room, where I'm just on a little break in between working with cellists from all corners of the globe. So I thought this would be a really good opportunity to chat to you today about online lessons. I want to answer some of the common questions, bust some myths, and specifically answer one question, which is, of course, do they actually work? So, here is today's episode of Cello Chat. I can still remember the exact date of the first online cello lesson I ever taught, and that was a Tuesday, the 17th of March 2020, which of course was the start of COVID. And the night before, on the 16th, the entire performing arts business in the UK had effectively been shut down. Every concert, every day of work I had in the diary was rubbed out for the foreseeable, and we've been told that we have to avoid all non-essential contact. So being my usual very practical hands-on self, I very quickly emailed all of my students and I said, okay guys, from tomorrow we continue as usual, but online. At that point I had never even heard of Zoom. I didn't know what it was. So I spent the rest of the evening calling a lot of friends who were far more techie than I was. And they told me, yeah, you've got to, download Zoom and do this and do that. And I was like, okay, right. So that was the evening. And the next morning we started. And at that point, I think musicians really sort of split into two camps. The ones who took to online teaching like a duck to water, and those who absolutely loathed it. Now, the fact that I'm talking to you on YouTube probably tells you which camp I fall into. I absolutely loved it from day one. Even though, of course, at the time, Zoom was not what it is now. You didn't have beautiful sound profiles for musicians or anything. It was all quite ropey at that point. But yeah, and that is actually how this very YouTube channel ever even started. Because at the time, actually, I had quite a lot of young kids whom I was teaching. And I was trying to create resources to help the parents practice with them, how to check for tension, what it should look like, how do you reset a bow hold when it's folded, all of those things. So that's how I ended up making my first ever set of videos, which funny enough are still amongst the most popular ones on my channel, but you can probably see they have a very different look to them about them, because they were really very technically very rudimentary. But yeah, so that's really how all my online teaching and YouTube started. So so that really brings me to perhaps the question that is on pretty much everyone's mind when it comes to online lessons. And that is, can they ever be as good as an in-person lesson? To which my answer is an emphatic yes, absolutely. Because how good or not a lesson is depends much less on the what I would call mode of transmission, whether face-to-face or online, than it does on really on the ability of the person teaching and their both technical and pedagogical knowledge. So so that is my very clear answer to that, because you can have 2 in-person lessons a week if you are not getting the information that you need, that really high quality information, you won't be going terribly far. And likewise, you can be working with someone on the other side of the world, and maybe only once a fortnight, but if they tell you, they hone in exactly what the problem is, they tell you exactly how to fix it, you'll be flying. very, very quickly. And I mean, obviously, when I was a student, that was long before the days of Zoom. I think I mean, YouTube really only started existing at the very, very end of my time at music college. But when I think back to my whole training, I have to say the people I learned from the most were not necessarily the ones I saw every week in person. so that is not just the fact that, you know, you go somewhere every week and see someone in person doesn't guarantee you any results. And I mean, one thing which is, I have to say, a great bugbear of mine is that certainly in the UK but in many other countries as well, the whole really music teaching industry is wholly unregulated, which means for someone looking for lessons, it's really quite difficult to discern, you know, who is actually qualified, who is not. Because certainly from what I'm seeing in my teaching practice, there is a lot of teaching going on which I'm sorry to say, for me, doesn't pass very, very basic, what I would regard as quality standards. And to that extent, I have to say, I think actually YouTube has done a very, very great service, because obviously during especially the beginning of the pandemic, when we were really all sitting at home doing very little, I wasn't the only one to start making videos. Many great colleagues of mine put out, you know, fantastic quality content, really all out in the public domain. I mean, what you can now find really without paying a penny is absolutely brilliant. And I think that has actually gone a very long way towards raising teaching standards in general, because I think now hopefully anyone looking for lessons will have a higher level of expectation as to what good teaching should look like. So yes, can online lessons be as good as in person? Any day. And I have to say, I've now taught probably thousands of them, and I work every week really with players all over the world, from the States, Mexico, Canada, to Australia, India, various parts of Europe. And it gives me so much joy when I see, really, it's sometimes I think it's just crazy how, you know, with the help of one MacBook, somebody thousands of miles from me is suddenly making absolutely fantastic progress. So yeah, definitely give it a go. Now, another question, obviously, that very frequently gets asked is how can you correct posture? How can you see whether someone is tense when you're not physically there? And I would say a few things to that. First of all, okay, having done it for as long as I've done it now, obviously, I know exactly how I want that person to be set up, how to sit in relation to the camera, if I want to look at specific things. But above anything else, pretty much for 90% of things, I could literally switch the camera off completely, because 90% of problems I can diagnose from hearing a sound. If there is tension in the right hand, in the left hand, you can hear it in the sound. And actually, funny enough, sometimes better online, because the microphones are not super flattering. So very, very often you can you can, even if there's a tiny bit of tension, you can hear that sometimes more readily sort of online than you would necessarily immediately in person. So I have actually got a good friend and colleague, and she's a violin professor, and she quite regularly teaches, not even on Zoom, on the phone, literally just on the phone. And she says exactly the same. She said, I don't need to see a person. I can literally hear it in the sound. And it's absolutely true. So I will, of course, when they're, very specific things, sometimes I will say, okay, can you, sit sideways, or even can you put the camera behind you, and I'll know exactly what to look for. But yeah, so that's, if again, it all comes down to how experienced someone is with that, but if somebody really knows what they're doing, no problem. Another common question is, are they suitable for beginners? Now, I would say adult beginners, definitely. Again, it really, it just, okay, it needs the way I work with that is through really, okay, a lot of close-up demonstration, a lot of with adults especially, a lot of analogies, a lot of sort of very graphic ideas of what kind of feeling they're looking for, how to make that happen. So that certainly is possible. With young children, perhaps it's more difficult, but certainly I have also worked with a lot of kids, maybe sort of 7-8 years onwards, and the way I get around that is I have the parent there with them, and obviously that is then my sort of additional set of hands, essentially, where I say, okay, just check that, make sure, just hold that, and it's fantastic through the process. I think some of the mums of my students now, I think, know more about playing the cello than a lot of people out there giving cello lessons. so yeah, definitely also possible for beginners. Last question that always comes up, and that is, do I need any special equipment, any high quality cameras, microphones? And the answer is no, you need absolutely nothing apart from either a laptop or an iPad. So I do most of my online teaching now on Zoom, which has certainly moved on greatly since 2020, and it now has specific profiles which you can set up specifically for musicians, and they can sometimes be a little bit fiddly to set up. So I've actually made a little video explaining what settings you need to set up in the audio profile, how to do it, and how far from yourself you should set it up and sit and whatever. And yeah, and then it's actually so that's what I send my students always ahead of time to look at, and then we're good to go. So you don't need any special gear. You can really do it from anywhere. I think I have by now taught from so many different parts of the world, including dozens of hotel rooms, airport lounges, backstage areas of concert halls, from holiday, absolutely everywhere. So no problem there at all. You don't need to splash out on any equipment. I've just looked at the clock and I'm realizing that I've got my next lesson starting in 2 minutes time. So I will have to love you and leave you, but as usual, I hope this has been helpful. And if you have any further questions about online lessons, as usual, pop them into the comment section below, and I will always love to hear from you and chat to you. And yes, if you want to know any more how to have lessons with me specifically, or maybe if you're not ready for that yet, try to participate in one of my live online workshops, which I run every month, do head over to my website www.juliamorneweg.com, or you can also follow me on Instagram at cello_Julia. See you soon.